Hello everyone, and welcome to our preliminary video for our next lesson, which is going to be about shadows in vessels and really about shadows in general. So I uploaded a reference image and I decided against a line drawing because I kind of want us to do it on our own and do it freehand. I just think it's a really good exercise, learning to draw ellipses and following them down to the bottom. And I'll add a note here. When we do this project, it's not going to be this realistic. We're going to do it a little bit more expressively. We are going to do a background because it's really important with these light edges that we have. We're going to leave some of the edges white. And we're not going to do black and white. We're going to use color. And so I'll start there. I want you to have a wide variety of colors available to you. Whatever you like is what we're going to use. And whatever color we use, we're going to use the complement to make our shadows. So if your bowls are all different shades of blue, you're going to want to have like a burnt sienna to make the shadows, or some other kind of orange. If you're we'll talk about it more when we're doing the color part, but just have a wide variety of paints for yourself, and I want you to pick what you love. And we'll talk a little bit about, I'll talk about it now. So some of you have expressed like a need or desire to make things a little bit more elegant or refined, or somebody said, I can't remember who it was, but they feel like their paintings look like cartoons, when left to their own devices. And this is a really normal thing. It's a really normal thing. So one of the tricks that I have for bringing a little bit more refinement to my work in color is to use fewer colors, and to use the complements to make shadows, and to mix everything in a little bit with everything else, so I get really beautiful color harmony. And we'll talk about this more in depth when we're starting the painting. But if you have 3 bowls like this, you might want to do them each in a different color, but analogous colors. So different shades of blue, or different shades of blue and purple, or different shades of blue and green, or different shades of red and orange. You know what I mean? So there's some kind of relationship to one another, and you can mix them all a little bit together. So that's something to think about when you're choosing your colors. So the other thing I want to talk about is we're going to really focus on where the light is and where the shadow is. And this is a really interesting reference that I chose because we have some really bright, hot white edges that sort of disappear, okay, right in this area. And then here they're in deep contrast with the dark background up here. And I really like that. It's a really great thing. And remember that when we make a painting ourselves, we are in control of that. So if we choose a subject that has a really hot disappearing, edge, or a really light value, we can add a background that is in contrast with it, or that gives us a disappearing edge. So these things are in our control, and we can change this to suit ourselves too, right? But what's beautiful about this is that you've got light coming in this way from the upper right. And when the light comes in from over here, it's hitting this side of the bowl, and this part of the bowl, and this part of the bowl, and illuminating it. But it's also hitting the inside of the bowl and this edge of the bowl. See that? How it's light over here, light over here. So then on this side, the light is not hitting it, so you've got a shadow. And on this side, in the inside of the bowl, the light is not hitting it, so you have a shadow. But notice, even on this bowl here, you've got a shadow on the left, and this bowl is casting a shadow on that bowl. So we have cast shadows. We have cast shadows in here, all the way down. And we also have cast shadows on the table surface, okay? And so they sort of run into this bowl, and this one kind of runs off this way. So it's really an interesting composition here to study shadows. So that's why I chose it. So we're going to do a pottery effect because some of you have asked for that as well. but we're going to do it in color, but we're going to go ahead and do it so it looks like a pottery glaze, right? So we've got these different textures going on. And that we'll talk more about when we're doing the painting section. So that's why I chose this reference. Now for paper, I would like you to use a cold pressed paper, and I'm going to use Stonehenge Aqua Cold Press, all right? And we want a cold pressed paper for this because it's got a texture to it. I don't know if you can see, but the paper has a texture, and that's what we want, okay? So make sure you have a cold pressed paper. Now, we're not going to do our drawing on the cold pressed paper. We're going to do it on drawing paper. And I have here a pad of drawing paper. And I'm just going to open to a clean sheet. And I've got just a number 2 pencil or an HB pencil. And we're going to use that to do our drawing. And we're going to do some sort of expressive things to get it going. The reason why I want you to do it on a separate piece of paper is that the drawings are going to look messy at first, and then we're going to refine them, and we're going to use erasers, okay? So I'm going to set this next to me so I can see it. And I want you to make them so you can fit them in a section of a 9 by 12 sheet of paper. So even we could do it this way, and it would be sort of the bottom half of the paper. So think about a 9 by 12 sheet cut in half. That's kind of how big you want your drawing. So your bowls are going to be over here, and then there's room for the shadows over here. Okay? All right, and if you don't have a 9 by 12 sheet, you can take a larger sheet and cut it down to 9 by 12, and then just draw a line down the center of it and make your drawing at the bottom. So if I took this, I printed it out, you can see how big it is on this full sheet of paper. And if I put this down, I mean, it's really about perfect. So I can make these the size that I printed them, or close to it. We don't need to be exact. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to start with the bowl in the back, okay? And we're going to go ahead and draw an ellipse. And drawing an ellipse, I do it really free, just like this, like an oval, okay? And I just keep going because that's going to give me a nice shape, all right? And then I'm going to just kind of keep following it down back and forth to follow this curve that I created. Take it down to where I want it to end. Make sure I have a nice curve at the bottom that matches the curve up at the top, all right? And then these bowls sort of come straight down out and then curve to the bottom. So kind of straight down, out a little bit, and then curve toward the bottom. These are handmade bowls, so they're not going to be perfect. Okay? And then I'm going to draw the bowl right next to it. So I'm looking at this, and the bowl right next to it comes right underneath the lip of the bowl, a little bit in. Okay? So I want to make sure that I want to just sort of draw that in so I have an idea. And then I'm going to go ahead and make my ellipse for this bowl. It can be a little bigger, it can be a little smaller. Okay? And then I'm going to follow it down again, and it comes about to here, I'll say, in front of it. And then I'm just going to follow this line out and down, and follow this line out and down. Remember, they don't have to be perfect, okay? And then I'm going to draw the last bowl. So this ellipse and then mine might be a little bit more open. That's okay. They'll look fine. So this one, there's a little bit of space, but it comes about to here, and it comes quite a bit over. It's a little bit shorter, this bowl. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly like the reference, but we're using the reference mostly for composition. Bring it down a little bit further because this bowl's in front. So all of our bowls are going to look a little different. No, none of us are going to have something that looks just like this. That's what I want. I want you to do something that's totally your own. Okay, but I have 3 bowls here, don't I? So the first thing I want to do is I want to take my eraser. Let's grab got all these kneaded erasers in here. They're all stuck together. And I'm going to get rid of the lines that are inside that shouldn't be there. Okay, so this bowl is in front of that bowl. So of course I want to erase that part. And then the same thing over here. This would not be there. Okay, and then I'm going to erase what's inside the bowls where I kind of drew my lines down. And remember, this is just a sketch. We're going to trace over it, okay? And now I'm going to refine these lines. So I'm going to look at each bowl separately. I'm going to say, okay, here's the outer line. And I'm going to make it a little bit darker. Okay, same thing with this. But by making these looser like that in the beginning, you're going to draw a better ellipse. And now I'm just refining. I'm just drawing right over what I have just to sort of snug them up a little bit. Okay. All right. There are my 3 bowls. Okay. Now, for our background, we wanted to do what it looks like. So this bowl has to be sitting on the table. So I'd say, let's put our background right here. And then you can use a ruler or your sheet of paper just to make sure that your lines meet up. So here's this side and this side. Okay? And that's what you're going to trace with your tracing paper. So let me go get a piece of tracing paper and I will be right back. Okay, so I have a piece of tracing paper. And I'm going to set it down on my drawing, smooth it out, and I'm going to go ahead and trace with the number 2 pencil Sorry, I'm quiet. These are more like cups, teacups, right? Now, when I'm drawing these, I'm sort of thinking about an artist that I love. the last name of Morandi. And he did the most beautiful paintings of pottery vessels. And he drew them freehand, and they were very imperfect. And then he would paint them in beautiful, sort of muted, analogous colors. And I'm really thinking about that right now. There. So now we have a tracing of our bowls, okay? And what we can do, once we have that, is take our watercolor paper and we'll put it on the bottom half. Actually, I'm sorry. No, we can't. What we're gonna do is we're gonna trace it on the other side, sorry. I almost forgot a step. That's what happens when you're in pre-Christmas mode. I had the worst experience at the grocery store today. I just, wow. People were so frantic and rushed and rude and reckless, and you know, I would smile at someone and I don't know what it was. I think it was probably because our store was really understaffed, and the lines were like, I mean, there were like 20 people in each line. I think people were just getting fed up, which is too bad. But I just saw some things that I wish I didn't see. But then I went to another store really quickly, and I had a totally opposite experience, so it made me smile again. Again, we are not going for perfection here, so do not freak out if like one side is a little bit bigger than the other or whatever. That's not our point for this project. Okay, so now I have my bowls tray, so I'll flip it back around this way and put my paper down and position my bowls where I want them. So I'm thinking like here. I'm thinking like there. And we're gonna transfer it. And I'm just gonna take my pencil and lightly go over these lines using the side of the pencil, and I'm not digging into the paper. The reason I'm not tracing over it again is because I don't want to make a groove in my paper. So I'm just using this as sort of a rubbing, like I'm doing a rubbing of something, very, very lightly. And you don't want to use a harder pencil than an HB. Sometimes I even use a B just to make sure that it's soft and I'm not gonna mar my paper, especially if I'm using hot press. Hot press is very susceptible to making grooves in the paper. Okay, now, before I lift it up, I put my hands down and I lift it to make sure that it's on there. And it's pretty good. I might go over it one more time. That way I don't have to draw it again. Sometimes if it's not on there all the way, I'll go over it again with pencil, just drawing on it, but I don't really want to draw on my paper if I can help it. Oh, I don't know if that was good or not. We shall see. If things move, it can be a disaster, right? Much better. Okay. So now I can just very lightly go over any area might need a little touching up. I'm not going to do too much. I can see this pretty well. I just don't know if you all can see it. It's pretty good. So now we have our composition transferred to our watercolor paper. So when we begin, what we're going to do is we're going to do our test colors up here, okay, and our mixes, and just see how they're looking, and then we can paint on here, and then when we're done we can just cut the paper in half and we'll have our painting. So this is as far as I want you to get. Okay, our next lesson we're going to finish the stone. I planned on doing that today, but to be honest with you, my hands have been shaky all day, and I was just afraid that I wouldn't be able to do it today. So this is much easier, it's much freer, and I'm just gonna take care of that little edge there because that looked precarious to me. Okay, so this is as far as I want you to get. Okay, so the next project we'll do will be to finish our stone, and then that will be after Christmas, and then the next one we're going to put our first layers down on our bowls. Okay? All right, everybody. Gosh, I probably won't talk to you again before Christmas, if you celebrate Christmas. So I hope you have a lovely, lovely holiday. And I really look forward to getting back with you after the holiday. I have so many things I want to do. Yeah. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to show you. Let me bring this back. I wanted to show you these. So these, and I want to ask your advice. So these watercolors I've had for a while. They are very special. They're from 1860 or 1853. And they are the same colors that like John Ruskin would have used. They're absolutely beautiful. You can see on the back, it has the name engraved, Noir de Vigne. And then on this side had the paint maker's crest. Okay, so these are made in Paris in the mid 1800s. And like this is Cendre de Bleu. And let me see here. They need to be wet first. It's amazing because watercolors like this, you may not have used these in 150 years and they're still going to be fine. They might just take a little TLC. But they're absolutely beautiful and luminous, and I love them because they would be the same colors that would have been available to Ruskin. They need a little bit more time. Because when I've wet them before and let them sit for a minute, I get really strong color. So this is a Purple Lake. And they're probably fugitive. Like I wouldn't use them to sell. But they are so beautiful. And one of the reasons I don't use them, because I want to use them, I'm not keeping them as a collector's item, I actually want to use them, is because I don't have anywhere to put them. I don't know how to store them. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how to store them. That's a green earth. That's a really, really beautiful blue. Oh my goodness. I mean, they're gorgeous. So I was wondering if any of you have any ideas for me, how I, some kind of container I could put them in where I could actually use them. God, I'll show you this one. This one is Venetian red. I mean, they are just gorgeous. So think about it. Do you have any suggestions for me? I would like to put them in something that they don't have to be totally secure, but they're not going to flop around and move around all the time. And I can't put them in here because number one, they move around, and it'll make a mess. Yeah, so if you have any ideas, I would be all ears. And I've had them for a couple years now and haven't used them because I really don't have anything to keep them in to use them. Look at this. I don't know if you can see how that blue, what it's doing. These are unlike any paints I have. They're very, very beautiful and I want to use them. So any ideas, and I would love to know. All right, everybody, Merry Christmas. Get your preliminary sketch done on your water and transfer to your watercolor paper, and we will be ready to paint next week. Okay, and gather your supplies. For paintbrushes, I forgot to talk about that. I would just get some pointed rounds, like a size 8 and a size 4 or something like that. All right, Merry, Merry Christmas. Merry, Merry, Merry Christmas. Thank you.